Thank you. Thank you for the beautiful music this morning. Well, it's so good to be here, be back, and my first time being in your new surroundings here, and it's absolutely beautiful. And I'm glad that you guys get to kind of start from scratch and just create this however you want to. And Chuck was telling me some of the things about the monitors and where you guys are headed, so that is absolutely wonderful. The title of my talk today is Living in Abundance. And I have been, I think I've expressed this before, to some of you may have heard it, but I've been a very good victim in my life. I really practiced and played that game out very well. And I don't remember if I told you the story. I hope I haven't. It's popping in my head, so I'm going to share it. My brother and I used to canoe the Au River, and we would go out there in the fall time, and it was a little cool. The mist was raising off the water, and it's kind of this picture perfect thing where the canoe is in the water and doing some fishing, and you're just kind of immersed in the experience of it. But we did our canoeing, we did our fishing, we got to our camp, and then we started unloading everything. And as we always did with things that we needed to keep dry, we would put them in garbage bags. And so my brother, he pulls out his garbage bag, and he is cussing up a storm. He is so angry. I'm like, what are you so angry about? And he holds up his sleeping bag, and it's soaking wet. It had gotten through the garbage bag, or the garbage bag wasn't sealed off well or something. And he is just so angry and just really disappointed with life, and I could go on and on. Next thing I know, he is laughing so heartily, and I'm like, what are you laughing about so hard? And he said, it's not my sleeping bag, it's yours. Then I started the cussing and the swearing, and honestly, that was my life a lot of times, and being a victim in life, so I thought I was, it really was so challenging. And I think we've all been in that space. Maybe some of you are. I have no judgment about where you're at with any of it. I just know for me, it did not lead to gratitude. It did not lead to abundance. I can tell you that for sure. But what it did for me, I guess, is it helped me to see that how I was giving my power away. Because anytime we're blaming someone or something else, there really can't be anything more disempowering than that. Because we're waiting for someone or something else to change in order to be happy, in order to come from a place of gratitude, right? Because if you're blaming somebody else until they change, until that situation change, you're screwed, or whatever. Is that the wrong word to use there? Sorry if it is. But in any case, yeah, you just can't do anything with that. But as soon as you say, okay, you know what? Yeah, I don't like this situation, but I recognize I get to do something about it. And what is that doing something about it? That doing something about it is just saying, all right, God, I'm not liking this. My mind is chattering about this and not liking this, but what I know is there's something here for me. There's something here for me. I want to know what that is, because I know that's the very reason you have brought this lesson to me. And now, all of a sudden, you're living an empowered life. I think so oftentimes that we get caught up in, how the world is, rather than accepting how it is. And that's nothing new. You've all who've seen me before have heard me say that, but I do want to say a quote from Eckhart Tolle. I'll paraphrase it. He said, 95% of your stress is fighting against life, wanting it to be different than what it is. You've heard me say that stress is wanting life to be different than what it is, but he recently was saying 95% of your problems are because you're fighting against it. One of the ways that I have found to I'm speaking of gratitude because I can't help but to speak of some gratitude, because to me that is how you manifest abundance in your life, right? You're being thankful for what's coming forward. So, the part of just flowing with life, it leads to something else, and that is letting go of our attachments and our desires. That's nothing new. We've all heard that before. But one of the things I think people get caught in sometimes is you can't really, if you are playing this game of letting go of all your desires, then you're hooked into another desire. And the desire is to let go of your desires and attachments, right? But so how do you actually do that? How do you actually let go of something? And that is, you bring it into your awareness. I don't even want to say bring it into your awareness. You become aware of it. Any challenge that you have, if you can simply be aware of it and recognize that as the busyness of the mind, the chattering monkey mind, as the Buddhists would call it, and recognize that, and then say, okay, thanks for sharing, let me let that pass on by. That's how you release attachments in your life. That's how you release desires. As you all know, I love my chocolate cake, and my chocolate cake has been a part of many stories because I don't want to give it up. I've been fighting that, giving that up for I don't know how many years. It's maybe a dozen years, 10 years. I don't know how long it's been. And I've made it into a problem in many ways. And one of the things Eckhart Tolle has said, if you have some kind of thing that you're holding on to, just take 3 conscious breaths to move it through. 3 conscious breaths. And then after that, just enjoy the piece of cake, because you've done your work. In fact, he was standing in front of many people at one point in time when they were waiting for him to come out, and he said, I hope you're not waiting for me to say something profound to change your life, because the truth is, one conscious breath is far greater than anything I have to share. And just consider what that means, one conscious breath. And I think about, and I did a talk, I think here a long time ago at the other location, about pushing the reset button. When you fully come back to the present moment, fully come back without resistance of anything with life, all of a sudden, boom, you hit that reset button. Whatever happened in the past is done in that moment, right? And it only becomes a problem if you bring it back up to the surface again. And the mind will do that. But that's okay. If we can just simply notice it and be aware of it, it's okay. The other thing that I want to talk about as far as being in gratitude and being in abundance is letting go of, in our country in particular, I'd say we just have a lot of arrogance in this country. And we, it's just for me, even just saying we're the greatest country in the world, but I guess probably other countries probably say the same thing. I don't know. And it's okay. It's okay. But the thing of it is, there's this attitude of entitlement. And I'm actually not judging these things. I'm just bringing them to the surface. If you feel entitled, it's okay. I'm just offering, if you feel entitled and you live that kind of life, it's tough to feel grateful, because everything that comes your way, well, it should come my way because I deserve it. I expect it and I deserve it. Why don't they treat me better here? Why don't they do that? My teacher, Muji, he just said, you know what? Let go of all your entitlement. Everything you think you deserve, let go of all of it. And then when it happens, you're going to be grateful. You'll be so grateful. I did my first memorial service a couple months ago, I guess it was. And it was a dear friend of mine who had passed. And there was really a lot of our community, of the ones that I've hung out with, that I've done a lot of workshops with. He brought the Human Awareness Institute from California to Michigan. Absolutely beautiful workshop on love, intimacy, and sexuality. And he... I dare I say that he changed probably thousands of lives because of his commitment to bring it back to Michigan. It's been absolutely beautiful work, powerful work. Well, these were my my dear friends. And originally I asked Rennie, who is the husband of Dayton, who passed. She said she wasn't going to do any memorial service. I hadn't done one before, but I did kind of for my mom and my sister earlier. I set up a lot of it earlier this year. And so I thought, well, let me just offer if she wants to do something on Zoom, because it seems a shame that we're not recognizing this beautiful man who touched so many lives. By the way, he was a priest, she was a nun. They broke all the rules. And in a good way. They got kicked out of certain things, and they, it was wonderful. They should have gotten kicked out of it, because the group, if you can't change along with the times, you can't open up to see that there's something greater they were looking for, which was love and joy and peace. And that's what they brought. So when I had sent that email out to Ren, he said, I'm happy to do a service for you on Zoom if you'd like to do that. And she reached back to me, and then next thing I know, there's kind of the snowball effect going, where somebody else that took over after Dayton and Rennie, as far as bringing the workshops in and creating it and all of that, she ended up finding somebody else that said, hey, I'll put a tent up outside. You don't have to worry about COVID. We'll put a tent. We'll have all the space. Next thing I know, what was just a little thing became this big thing. Well, so I was committed to Dayton, the one who had passed, and I felt very connected with him. And I said, Dayton, man, I don't want to do this in a way out of ego. I really have to get out of the way. Please help me to do that. And I prayed to God, please help me to get out of the way. And what would happen for me, and you've heard me talk about my arrogance before, and maybe you see it, maybe you don't. My wife sees it, and she reminds me of it. And my son does the same thing, and you know what? I'm grateful for that, because I needed to hear that. But I would tell my wife, I don't know. I don't know what you're saying. I'm just being me. This is all I know to do. I don't know what humility looks like. All I know is I'm just doing the best that I can. And in my insecurity, of course, I'm, hey, did I tell you what I did here? Well, look how good I did over here, And so I would do this unconsciously a lot of times. So in any case, it became this thing where I'm just like, I don't want to be arrogant. I don't want to get in the way of what's possible at this memorial service. So what happened was, because I was so committed to just getting out of the way, thoughts continued to present themselves. The thought like, oh, say this, they'll really like this. Or do this, let's set it up this way, and maybe they'll really like me. Maybe I'll get more memorial services. Maybe the people will hire me for weddings or whatever, And it became this, but it was perfect. It was perfect because it was being brought to the surface, because I needed to become conscious and aware of my arrogance. And so I absolutely loved it. It was a workshop in and of itself. And so these thoughts continued to present themselves, and I continued to be aware of them, and I let them go, and I just continued to pray to God and connected with my buddy Dayton, and it was just such a beautiful experience. And then the memorial came along, and I was so in my heart. It felt so good, but I was nervous because, I hope I do a good job. Well, I'm recognizing more and more, it's not about me doing a good job. My only job, our only job, is to get out of the way, is to get our person, that personal idea, that personal image that we carry around of ourselves, all those ideas that we've collected over the years to say, this is who I am, it's that, getting that out of the way for something greater to come through. And so in doing so, I was so moved into my heart. I was moved into my heart, and lives were touched. And I had to even, I'm even a little hesitant to say that now. So to say a lot, I've said, well, is that coming from ego, Brett? And somebody's like, I had a lot of accolades afterwards, and I didn't know what to do with it because I knew it wasn't me. My only part was where I could take credit for is I did a good job of getting out of the way. That's the only part I felt like I could really take credit for. And it is transforming my life in such miraculous ways, honestly. And my mentor of many years was there. And I came back and I didn't say anything to my wife about how it went because in the past, I was going to tell her everything, how good it went and how well I did. And therein, of course, yeah, here he goes again, like how good he is, all that kind of thing. I didn't say anything. I just let it be, and I realized I don't want to tell her, when I have a sacred experience or something, or a spiritual experience, because I knew there was ego attached to it somehow. It's like proving my worth, like, wow, look what he can do. That's amazing. So my friend, my mentor, he said, I went to the service and he said, Brett was magnificent. And he told her, and I didn't say anything. And so it was a new experience for me to can I just be still in it? And I don't know. You see, in my mind, even telling you that my friend said that to my wife, it feels, I don't know if there's something in there again where it's just wanting you to know that or something. So this is the dance that I'm doing right now, and it's okay. I don't want to diminish myself. I'm here to sometimes be an example, sometimes be an example of what you can do, sometimes to be an example of what not to do. However it serves you, I hope that I get out of the way that it serves in the right and proper way. But I can tell you this. As I started to understand more what she meant by, being arrogant, like I was getting a glimpse, like, okay, this is what she's talking about. It's like me trying to build a false identification up. And we all have those things, right? We might have hooked into, I'm a really good artist, I'm a really good musician, I'm a really good speaker, or I'm a really good engineer. Whatever that thing is that we've now labeled ourselves as good, why do we need to label that as good? We need to label that as good in our mind because we're trying to prove our worth in some way, which we all carry issues of self-worth. So we hook into something to say, I'm really good at this. And if somebody might ask you, well, who are you? Oh, well, I'm a speaker and I'm an inspirational speaker, And for a long time, I would use that as a way of trying to prove that I deserve your love. So what's happening for me now is I'm coming to this recognition that I've tried so hard to be somebody, right? I've tried so hard to be somebody. I've tried so hard to be a good speaker and a good meditation teacher and successful. I've been just trying. And finally, when I did this memorial service, there was something that broke free. And all of a sudden, doors started opening. I started getting people coming to me to do more speaking. My speaking has filled up now, and just everything started unfolding. And then, and I was telling Denise this, her and I were having a conversation about retirement, and my brother and we had a conversation on the phone it was only about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he said, when you retire, you're better off getting retirement for Social Security early, because when you add up the numbers, and I'm like, okay, that's interesting. So I went to talk to my CPA, and actually what happened first, I'm like, let me just get online and check this out. And I'm like, he's right. I would be better off to do it now, And then as I'm reading it, it said you qualify at 62 years and 10 months. That was 2 weeks away. And all of a sudden, I'm like, where did that come from? I'm like, I wasn't interested in retiring, It's like I got a lot of more things to do and all that. But so next thing I know, I'm talking to my CPA the following week, and he goes, the numbers make sense. You should collect your Social Security now. And I'm like, what just happened? What just happened? 62 years, almost 63 years, and all of a sudden this just presents itself out of the blue, and the next thing I know, I'm applying for Social Security. And I'm waiting to hear back. I'm assuming I'll get approved, It's my money, I'm entitled to it, But it just came out of nowhere, and I know why it happened. I know why it happened because I was in such a state of gratitude. And so now, all of a sudden, I'm about to get my Social Security, and I can still make another $20,000, which is about maybe what I make in my speaking, in my teaching, in my retreats, and it worked out absolutely perfect. But I think out of so much of it, it's like really just becoming more and more aware how we're all trying to be somebody. I'm inviting you to let that go. What if you didn't need to be anybody? What if you could be quietly in the background, just serving from your heart? And I remember a long time ago, I said to God, God, I can't serve you right now because I feel like if I serve you, it's going to be out of obligation and duty and not just out of the sheer joy of service. I don't feel that way anymore. I love serving. I love it. I love it so much. It feels so good. So, inviting you to become nobody, inviting you to just let go of all these ideas of what we need to do to save the world, or I'm going to change the world, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. Hey, look, you do as much as you need to do. I'm just inviting you to come back to a place of stillness, come back to a place of silence, come back to a place of nothingness, and see what springs forth, what action springs forth out of that. That's the difference. Because we can try all we want, and I tried. I tried to market my business. I tried to do all of these things like, why aren't I more successful? I'm working as hard as anybody out there, That's what I felt like. But I needed to step over that hump of being, trying to prove my worth in some way. And when I did that, all of a sudden, my whole life has changed within the last couple months. Just so many things have changed. My wife and I were both driving a 2007, 2012 car. Now we got 2019 cars. We did a whole bunch of renovation on our home. And I had left my job and just doing this, which I love to do. It's like everything changed. But honestly, more than anything, it was just coming back to this place of the stillness and the nothingness, the nobodiness. There's just something so fulfilling about it. Like I don't have to try. That God's love is always pouring on us. God's grace is always pouring on us. Can I just get out of the way of life that God is wanting to give us? Can you do that? Can you just get out of the way and just allow God to shine through the beauty and the truth of who you are? Because it's here right now. Even if your mind might tell you, well, I've got to do this first, or I'm waiting for something to happen. Please, no waiting. No waiting. There's nothing to wait for. All the stories that say I'm not enough, that I need to get more worthy, I need to help more people out, I need to be more successful, I need to do a better job with my relationships. Whatever stories you have, I'm just inviting you to let those go. God is ready to just envelop you and grace you and bless you in unbelievable ways. It felt kind of like I had finished, but I can't, talk about abundance without saying, when you give freely from your heart, it's so powerful what you get back. Everything that I've done has been about moving in this direction of giving freely. And when you do, it just leads you to a place of gratitude. It leads you to a place to say how incredibly abundant I am. And I'm going to just finish with this saying from Jeff Foster. Anybody familiar with Jeff Foster? Yeah, he does some beautiful work. Abundance is not the money you have in your bank account, the trophies on your shelf, the letters after your name, the list of goals reached, the number of people you know, your perfect, healthy body, your adoring fans. Abundance is a connection to each breath, how sensitive you are to every flicker of sensation and emotion in the body. It is the delight with which you savor each unique moment, the joy with which you greet each new day. It is knowing yourself as presence, the power that creates and moves worlds. It is your open heart, how deeply moved you are by love every day, your willingness to embrace, to hold what needs to be held. It is the freshness of each morning, unencumbered by memory of false hope. Abundance is the feeling of the afternoon breeze on your cheeks, the sun warming your face. It is meeting with others in the field of honesty and vulnerability, connected beyond the story, sharing what is alive. It is your rootedness in the present moment, knowing that you are always home. You are always home, no matter what happens, no matter what is gained or lost. Please hear that. No matter what is gained or lost, you are still home, even though your mind might have a different story. It is touching life at the point of creation, never looking back, feeling the belly rise and fall, thanking each breath, giving praise to each breath. It is falling to your knees in awe, laughing at the stories they tell about you, sinking more deeply into rest. Abundance is simplicity. It is kindness. It is you. Before every sunrise, fresh, open, and awake. You are rich, friend. You are rich. Thank you so much.